show. Wait, Leslie Rob said what? What? Leslie Rob said what? What she said? What? Leslie Rob said what?
Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Leslie Said What? Okay, guys, as per usual, this episode will not disappoint. Tonight, we're going to be talking about top tips for teachers from a reading specialist. Okay, so let's be for real. All of us as teachers can always use some extra reading specialist tips. You know what I mean? We could always use some extra reading help. Okay, so like always, guys, feel free to drop your questions in the comments. Feel free to comment, and we will pull your comments and questions in as needed. And feel free to just engage in the conversation. We want you guys to enjoy yourselves. Now, without further ado, I'm going to bring on our guest reading specialist. Her name is Miss T. Let's bring her on, Miss T. Hey, Miss T. You're muted. Yeah, it takes us back to pandemic days, right? When the kids are like, you're muted.
Back to virtual, where
exactly.
Yes.
So
Hi,
welcome,
Leslie.
Miss T.
Hi, I'm so excited to be here. Thanks so much for having me.
Oh my gosh, I'm just so glad that you were able to be with us, because I know with the school year and in the evenings, you know, our evenings are precious. So thank you for sharing it with us.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
So Miss T, tell us, who is Miss T?
Okay, so I'm Miss T. I'm 31 and I'm a reading specialist in Maryland. I'm really excited. I used to teach first grade and second grade. And then in the past 3 years, I got this job as a reading specialist and I really love it.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, and the best part about it is when you love what you do, it just shows. So we can definitely tell.
Thanks. I appreciate that.
Now, so you're in Maryland, so you're near me. I'm in Virginia. So have you guys had snow?
Yes, we've had so much snow. Yeah, actually, the only day that we went into school last week was on Thursday. Every other day was closed, snow days, virtual days, something like that.
Same here. So like we had snow days every day last week except Thursday. And so, you know, we went in on Thursday and then you're like, okay, wait, it's going to snow tomorrow. So it's like, woohoo, like a 4-day work week.
Yes. Did you have to do virtual?
No,
online?
not at all.
Oh, well, aren't you lucky duck?
Yeah, because I'm noticing that more districts are doing that. Rather than calling a snow day, they call it a virtual day and then have the teachers teach from home.
Correct. That's what we did.
Yeah, no, thank you. I'm
Actually,
good.
We did all three. So we had a close, we taught virtual, and we taught asynchronous, which is when we're not live the whole time. So we did all of that within the span of a week.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, like a mix. Oh my gosh, it just gives me such pandemic flashbacks.
Yes, it did.
Especially going when the word asynchronous, you know what I mean? Like I didn't even know what that word really meant until the pandemic. So
correct. So and I still don't use it until we talk about virtual learning.
Let's be for real. Oh my gosh. So how's the school year going for you?
Overall, the school year is going really well. I came into this school that I'm working at now last year. So, and we're actually in a brand new building. So everything is new. All the classrooms are new. The floors are new. The smells are new.
I'm so jealous. So jealous.
And it's huge. So I'm really excited about that. And even with the challenges, I really try to see every school year as a new opportunity to learn something new, to meet new kids. And so I've been doing that and really loving it.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. And that's the best way to be. Like, to me, if you have a more of a positive outlook, then you'll get a positive response. Because I always say what you feed will grow. If we feed positivity, we'll grow positivity. If we feed negativity, we'll grow negativity. Right. So
totally agree with that.
So that's so good. Okay. So what brought you to being a reading specialist?
Well, actually, I didn't want to be a teacher at all when I first went to college. I wanted to be a pediatric oncologist. So I wanted to.
Wow.
I did. That was my dream. I really wanted to be in pediatric oncology. But I went to college and I really started to have a passion for education. And I went to school, for early elementary. And when I started teaching my first year, there was a reading teacher who was so passionate about teaching kids how to read. And I will always remember her. I won't say say her name on here, but she was so passionate and so lovely and so kind. And she taught me a lot about reading. She used to come into my room and teach with me, like teach phonics with me and show me how to do
Oh,
things.
wow.
And so I was just so inspired by her. And I just knew, I was like, oh, this is what I want to do. I want to help kids learn how to read just like she did. I
Oh
just
my
love it.
gosh, that is so awesome. And you know what? When another teacher is one that you can just look up to and admire, it's just that's the best. And you know what? We always pay it forward. So it's so good that she did that for you.
Yes, and she was just so passionate about her job, and she'd been doing it for a really long time, and she was about to retire. And I said, "Oh, I'm just so inspired by everything that you're doing. I just really love this." And I went to grad school, and then eventually, I have the job that I have now.
Oh my gosh, that is so awesome. And I can just see like literally, even though you're talking about her passion, I can see your passion in it as well. So that's just awesome.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I am really passionate about reading.
Aw. Now, what grade level do you work with?
So I work with a couple of different grade levels. I work with kindergarten, first, and second grade. So
Okay.
part of my job is to pull kids out of the classroom and work with them in small groups. But I also go into the classroom to help their teacher with phonics instruction, to help guide them and teach with them and to be an extra support system. And I really love doing that. I love taking the kids out for a group, but I really love going into the classrooms too.
Okay, yeah, that's what I was gonna ask you. Is do you use like a pull out strategy or do you do a push in? So you do push in and pull out. Okay, that's
Correct.
awesome.
I love it. I love having them in the small groups so I can really see their needs. But I also like going into the classroom because some of those students aren't on my caseload. So I just see the whole class and I teach
Oh,
to
nice.
everybody in the room and help the teacher plan. And that's actually my favorite part is going into the classrooms and seeing all the kids, even the ones I don't work with directly.
Now that has to be really rewarding in a sense as well. Like, especially like knowing that, come on, let's be for real. Reading is the most basic foundational thing that we all need. And so, being able to pay that forward to the students, I'm sure is just so rewarding.
It is. And just from the beginning of the year till now, and we're just halfway, I see the students' wheels are turning and the sparks they have. And a couple of weeks ago, there was a parent teacher conference, and the parent said to me, Miss T, student blank really did not like reading, but now they love it. They love coming to groups with you. They like to talk about you and tell all the things that you do all the time. And they really
Oh,
have a
that's
passion for
awesome.
reading. And I can tell the difference in the student as well.
Oh my gosh, that is so awesome. Now, I know that like a lot of the teachers often say, especially like I have a friend who teaches middle school and just seeing like that delay in reading, like it's just astronomical. Like, what they say that they're tending to find is that, like we growing up, we had like the traditional phonics and phonemes and different things like that, but now that schools tend to be moving further away from some of those things, that they're seeing such a gap in the reading. Is that something that you're seeing is a huge gap there?
I definitely am. I think there are a lot of factors that go into play. One
Mhm.
being the pandemic where learning was
Oh,
very
yeah.
different,
Oh,
especially
yeah.
for yeah, especially for the kids that were in those primary grades. So I noticed that for sure. The other thing is we're noticing some shifts in reading. So before there was lots of focus on sight words, but we're noticing lots of shifts where people are talking about decoding and tapping out the words and sounding out the words. So as we're learning more about how the brain works and how our brains learn how to read, there's definitely some shifts in curriculum and education for sure.
Oh, that's awesome. And you know what? Like the funny thing is I just now saw the tap method that a kindergarten teacher had used recently and it was mind-blowing to me. I never even would have thought.
Yes, yes. There's lots of different strategies that we're using. And I really like with my groups, we do lots of multisensory. So we're touching and moving things and highlighting things and listening and tapping and doing all kinds of things. And that really helps to make that connection to the brain.
Oh, that's amazing. So let's talk top tips. Okay. So what are some top tips that you want to share as a reading specialist to teachers? Because I believe it or not, I hear it more often than none that teachers are having to have like basically try to close those reading gaps across the grade levels. I teach high school and you still have teachers who are just like, how did this kid get this far? You know what I mean? So we want all the tips. So tell us all the good things.
Okay. So, a really good tip, and I want teachers to keep this in mind, is that reading does not come naturally to our brain. It's something that has to be explicitly taught. So babies, they can listen to you and babble and talk, but it doesn't work like that with reading. We have to be explicitly taught how to do it. So the longer that it takes for a student to develop those foundational skills, the longer it will take to close those gaps. So what I really want teachers to keep in mind is know that it happens at different speeds for different kids, but the earlier that you catch if there's a problem, the easier it is to help with that problem further down the road. So I think that's super important for teachers to know.
So is that more of like an early intervention piece, or is that something that gets assessed in the kindergarten level, or?
Good question. So recently, in the past couple of years, Maryland actually passed a bill that said that all students need to be assessed to see if they have deficits in their reading levels. So at first, all students weren't being assessed that way, but Maryland passed a law saying there's a specific test that needs to be done that tests if kids are able to recognize sounds and manipulate sounds. So yes, the earlier that you get those test results back and you do those things, you can see if it's an indicator that students will have trouble with reading later down the line.
Oh, wow, that's interesting.
Yes.
Okay.
And it's fairly new. So reading assessments and tests, that's something that's been around forever. But having a specific test that's an early indicator that shows if a student's having trouble with this, it's a predictor that they may have trouble later down the line. And since I live in Maryland, that's what we use. And it gives us lots of data and feedback about how we can help the students early so that it's less likely that they'll have difficulty when they get into those upper grades.
Oh my gosh, that is just awesome. Now, and obviously you're in Maryland, so you know in Maryland, but is that something that's going to be coming out nationwide? Do you think they're rolled out nationwide, or is it just more of something that is specific to Maryland?
So other states do it too, but it's not a nationwide mandate. States and counties are permitted to do, their own thing. But yes, more states are doing that. More states are learning about what, you've probably heard the science of reading. That's a big word that lots of people are talking about, and how to tap out words and use phonics. There's lots of that. So I think there's a shift in that way where people are finding out more information for sure.
Okay, cool. All right. So take us to our next tip.
Okay, so my next tip is I noticed that lots of teachers, we're all on Instagram, we're all on TikTok, and there's so much information. So how do you know what's the information that I can trust and like what information can I not trust? So there are lots of buzzwords that I know are in education, like reading, science of reading, and decoding, and letters. That's a program, that's a framework that lots of people use. What I really recommend teachers to do is actually look at what you're about to buy. Look into the things that you're doing. See like, does this make sense? Have I seen this resource somewhere else? So before you buy something or before you see someone that says something just based on a buzzword, do the research for yourself and kind of look into it. Kind of ask around, ask someone that works at your school, hey, I'm thinking about getting this. What do you think? Do you think that's going to align with our curriculum? That's a really good tip because as a teacher, I know our time is limited and sometimes we're logging on and we got to click and we got to see what's going to be what's going to be quick. I got to get to it.
Yeah. Like help.
Help. I need the help. But really take your time and look carefully at the resources that you're buying to see if they're going to be effective for your students.
Oh, that makes complete sense. And so Catherine here agrees with you. She said that. And then she said, that's a great tip. There's so much information on social media.
Oh, yes. There's a ton of information on social media. So I would really be careful about the buzzwords. I like reading just as much as the next person, but I am cautious about what I take in and what I decide to spend my money on because we don't make that much money.
For sure.
Okay. And I have another tip for teachers.
Yes, you keep them coming. We're here for it.
So teachers that are helping their kids learn how to read, a lot of times you'll hear people focused on one section, like we're just going to focus on the comprehension piece, or we're just going to focus on the decoding piece. Can they sound out all the words? But it's actually both of those things that work together that make a skilled reader. So they have to have the language and the vocabulary and the knowledge, and they actually have to be able to read the words. So if you can read words, but you don't understand what they mean, you're not a skilled reader yet. And if you can comprehend everything, but you can't actually read what's on the page, you're still not quite a skilled reader yet. So you have to have both of those things working together to be a skilled reader. So I want teachers to know that I can't just focus on they decode every word, and I can't just focus on the comprehension. It has to be both for my students to be great readers.
Yeah, because I do notice that like there were several of my students when I taught elementary that were like able to decode no problem, but then if you go back and ask a comprehension question in regards to what they just read, you get a different outcome.
Correct. So they have to be able to do both of those things, and you can build on that by asking comprehension questions. Even in the primary grades, ask them a lot about what they've read, the characters, the setting, even about the specific word. What does this word mean? What's the opposite of this word? What's a word that means the same thing as this word? Asking a lot of those questions to help build their comprehension and vocabulary.
Now, so is there a specific collection of readers that you prefer over another? Because I know through Scholastics there's so many sets of readers that teachers can buy. Is there a specific set of readers that you prefer?
There is. So I really prefer for the students, especially that I work with, that are having difficulty with reading, I focus on decodable readers. That means that most of the words in the book, the students are able to sound out, like words like cat, dog, they're able to tap. That's a strategy they use, or push through the sounds to read the words. There are some sight words, and sight words are inevitable. There's some words that don't follow spelling patterns, but I like to have the decodables because I can actually teach the kids to match the letters with the sounds and blend them together to make the words, rather than just rote memory of a list of words and then putting it together in a book. So there's lots of decodable readers out there, though. So I know there's lots of different publishers that make them. So still, you want to check carefully, see if you can get a preview to look through the book, because some books say that they're decodable, but they're really not. They really have a lot of sight words that the kids can't decode. It's a lot of
Hmm,
memorization, lots of sight words that they've
good to
remembered
know.
before. Yeah, so look at that carefully. So that's what I
Wow.
prefer to use. And I'm
Mhm.
noticing that more publishers are coming out with decodable readers and decodable books, because the sight words alone aren't helping the kids to be able to move along and be those skilled readers that we want them to be.
Oh, yeah, and the thing is I also and this is something that I learned late in the game as a teacher, that some other teachers may not be aware of as well, and you can correct me, please, if I'm wrong.
Oh,
But is
yeah.
it true that, like, sight words, we're not supposed to, like, set them out for the kids to sound them out, they're just supposed to be able to, like, just on sight, right? Is that why they're called sight words?
Yeah, so that has a lot to do with it. So when we think about the term sight word, typically people think about words on a flashcard, like, okay, read this word to me.
Yeah.
Okay, read this word to me, read this word to me. But I like to think of those words as irregular words because they don't follow the normal rules of spelling. So like
Hmm.
the word the, we have a T, H, and an E, but those sounds don't say t, eh. It makes its
Right.
own word, the. So that's an irregular word. So, yes, students do have to remember those words, but parts of those words they can actually look at, like the word and, for example, A and D. We can teach students that A and N together, say and then add that D on the end, d, and the word is and. So that's no longer a word that they just have to memorize. They can actually tap it out and decode it. So yeah,
Hmm.
yeah.
Okay. Well, Jenny in the comments says, I like that you're talking about aligning what you may choose to use with the curriculum. So she's loving how you're connecting the two.
Ah, thanks for watching, Jenny. And yes, I really like to you know that you have a curriculum, so teachers can't always control the curriculum that their district is going to buy. So if my district has bought this curriculum, I can't just say, yeah, I don't feel like using that. I don't want to do that. I have to find resources that align with that. But when you know the resources that are going to connect and you know what good quality resources look like, you can make those decisions that are going to be best for your students.
I love that. I love that. Okay, so keep us coming. What we got?
Okay, there's one other thing I wanted to tell you, Leslie, about sight words that we were just talking about.
Okay. Sounds good.
Once a word is already mapped in your brain, that means that you know it. That word has become a sight word that you can read by sight. So I see the words the Leslie said what podcast, all of those words are sight words to me because when I see those words, I automatically read them. If you look around the room that you're in now, you're not looking to see what each word is. When you see the word, you automatically read it. And those words are now added to your personal sight word dictionary in your brain.
Oh, wow. That
Yeah.
makes a lot of sense.
Yes. So thinking about like cities and towns, for me, those are not sight words because I'm not familiar with Chattanooga. Maybe if I had
Yeah.
not seen that before, but if you live there, that's a sight word for you because you see that word and you know exactly what it is and you don't have to try to figure it out. So your brain has already kept that in its mind. I know that word is Chattanooga.
Oh my gosh, that makes so much sense. And I love how you said that because I live in a town called Spotsylvania.
Oh
And
boy.
and lots of people are like, "But the what?" And so the thing is, but it's a sight word for me. Wow, because of that. I never thought about
Correct.
it like that.
Yeah, just you know that word, you've seen that word, you know exactly what it is. But someone else, even if they are fluent in our English language, they may still have to try to sound out that word and figure out what it is.
Wow, that makes complete sense. Complete sense.
So I've had a lot of people, Leslie, ask me, okay, I want to become a reading specialist. Like, what do I do? What do I need to do? How do I get to do that? So I have a couple of tips for those people those teachers that say, like, hey, I really am passionate about teaching kids how to read. What can I do to become a reading specialist, a reading teacher, a reading intervention teacher? So yeah, go ahead. Were you gonna say something?
No, I was gonna say that's great because I didn't even think about that aspect of it. So, like, even though we have tips for actual teachers, but there may be teachers who want to make that transition into reading specialists. So this is great. Share
Yeah.
away.
I have lots of people ask me, so how did you get into the job? How did you get into this? So it's important if you think, hey, I really want to get into reading, look at your district and look at what your district requires you to have. So your district may require you to have a master's degree, but some districts don't. They may only require you to have a certain amount of experience over time. So maybe 10 years, 5 years, and then you can apply to have the job. So, what I would say, first tip, if you want to become a reading specialist or a reading teacher, look at your district specifically and see, like, what are the qualifications that I need to have? You may think that you need to take a ton of classes and get another degree, but you may not. You may have the qualifications. You just need to get more training, and you can get a lot of that training on the job. So, don't be discouraged if you don't have, you say, like, I don't have my master's in this and this and this. Really look at what your district is asking you to do because they do a lot of training within my district. And that really helped develop myself as a reading teacher.
Oh, wow. And you know what? A lot of districts also offer tuition reimbursement too and tuition assistance. So that's
Yes.
also something to look into as well.
Yes, yes, that's how I was able to pay for my degree with that tuition reimbursement
Oh, see,
because
that's what's up.
it is very expensive.
Yeah.
So I was able to get that tuition reimbursement to help to pay for it. Something else I would say, if you are really interested in learning more about reading, just know that it looks a little bit different everywhere. So I know in my role now, I work directly with students and I work directly with teachers. But in some districts, reading specialists may not work with students at all. They may just work with the teachers to help the teachers with the skills to develop them. So kind of think about what you want to do, what you want the role to look like for you.
Yeah, like basically like what you want to do in that role and how exactly and how you want to orchestrate it. Cause like you said, it does look different for everybody. I know like at our school district, like in the elementary schools more so, we see the reading specialist doing a push in or a put or pulling the students out. So it has a mix, but then there are some districts where it's all a pull out method and you do small groups. So it does vary per school. And then also nowadays with the teacher shortage, it just varies as well when it comes to teaching reading specialists as well if the availability is there. So the more the merrier. We need you guys.
Oh, thanks, Leslie. And you're exactly right. So some districts may not have a bunch of opportunities and a bunch of openings because there's teacher shortages. They need teachers in those classrooms teaching kids so the classrooms aren't full and overflowing. So
Yeah.
that's a really good point for sure.
Yeah. And do you find that like well, and I'm sure it probably is a thing, but with the teacher shortage, I wonder how that does affect the ability for the kids to perfect that skill of reading or to even enhance their skill of reading. because of the fact that, they're limited in that small group setting and teachers being able to assess properly in the ways that they need to. I know my sister, who's a kindergarten teacher, is often overwhelmed with the influx of students because her class sizes are so big, you can't get to all of them. So I know that you guys play an integral role in going in and helping those teachers out. So I love the fact that you said that you go into the classroom and you get to see the full gamut of the kids, because there may be a student that, not, I don't want to say fell through the cracks, but the teacher just did not realize needed the extra assistance, and that you were able to identify that sometimes. So
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And just what you were saying with the teacher shortage, in my district, it's improved a lot. But at one point, we were so limited on teachers, they were pulling people from central offices to come in and teach. So you might have been HR signing people up for the job, but now you are a second grade teacher because we do not have enough people in the classrooms. So they were pulling people
wow.
from all different areas, all different parts of our district, because there were just really a shortage of teachers. They even had to have some teachers just stream online
Oh
because they
my
didn't have
goodness.
enough people in the classroom. So they had to have people come from other places to teach. Yeah, it
Oh,
was tough.
I believe it. Yeah, we had gotten to the point where I think some of the classrooms, they used the computer labs and then they put an influx of kids in there, and then one teacher would just supervise the online learning because that's all they had. So yeah, it's hard.
Yes, that was really tough. I think that was tough on everyone, on the
Yeah.
teachers, and there were limited subs. So when that happens, the classes are split up. So you'll get some of my kids, and you'll get some of my kids, and you'll get some of my kids. So, I mean, it makes a big difference when you have 5 extra kids in a classroom, 5, 6, 7 extra kids.
Yeah,
And it's fine if it happens every so often, but once a week, twice a week, 3 times a week, like
I
that gets
know.
pretty tough.
Yeah, and then things get the data and like being able to track where your students are and their progress gets skewed because wait, I couldn't catch him this today, or whatever. So yeah. Now let me ask you this as a reading specialist: is it
Yeah.
ever too late? Because I know that like some of my friends who, like I have spoken about before, that teach middle school, they have some kids that still can't read. Is it ever too late in the game?
That's a really great question, Leslie. And the answer is no. It is never too late to learn how to read. There are some adults that are still learning how to read, and I want to encourage them not to give up and say that you can't do it. So, yes, it does make a difference. The earlier that you're able to intervene, the easier it is. But anyone, most of us, can learn how to read. It's difficult for some, and it's actually difficult for many, but it's never too late to learn. No.
Ah, I love that. I love that. And that's something I wanted other teachers to hear, is that it's never too late for your students to get to where they need to get to. And, and that's why I was glad to bring you on, is because some of those teachers do want to take that extra time to figure out how to help their students. And so this has just been amazing.
Oh, thanks. And yeah, I really want to encourage teachers out there. It's not too late. You can always teach kids how to read. And kind of what you're saying, it becomes more difficult, but it's never too late. You don't want to give up on the students, and you don't want them to give up on themselves either. You want them to know that they can do this.
Yes, I think that is so integral. And the thing is when you were saying how it's never too late, it's so funny. Like I remember seeing one of the students when I used to teach middle school, who he was a struggling reader, hated the thought of reading. And like getting a student to write a sentence was just so difficult. But then when that light turns on and they find something of interest, and that's something that I'm not a reading specialist, but that's just something that I learned in teaching elementary and middle school, and now even high school, that if you find whatever the kid is excited about reading, let them read it. Because, some teachers are like, well, graphic novel isn't a book. But
Oh, it
it,
is. Sure
it,
is.
it is, it does count. You know what I mean? So, like,
Yeah.
I know that when the students find something that they're passionate about, they're excited to read about, that also makes a difference.
Oh, totally agree with that. That's kind of the same way with adults too. When we're really
Yeah.
interested in something, we want to do it. Like we want to go somewhere with friends or we want to read a book. But when it's time to sit down and like pay our taxes and do other stuff, we don't always want to do that stuff or clean up or
No,
do this. We don't always want to do that. But
no.
you really want to see what the kids are interested. And even though my students are still having difficulty, with reading, it's difficult for them. Even our little stories that they read, they love it. They still love, like, we're going to learn about foxes today. We're going to learn about Sarah had 10 hats and what does she do with the hats? They still are really intrigued by it.
Oh my gosh, that is just awesome. I love it. I love it. Well, someone named Andrea or Andrea in the comments is
Yeah.
saying hello to you.
Hey, that's somebody I work with. Hey, how are
Oh,
you?
that's awesome. Oh my gosh. So I love when we all support each other. It's just awesome. It makes teaching so much more fun. When we're not competing and comparing, we're just all in it together. I
Yes,
love it.
it's
I love
really
it.
sweet.
Now, is there any tips that you have left that you want to share?
Hmm. This is the last tip that I want to share that I think for
Okay.
anyone that is interested in becoming a reading teacher, you said, I really want to be a reading specialist. What can I do? I want those teachers to understand that reading is always going to be important. Districts and schools and principals, they're going to have their own goals of what they think is important. So one year, math may be the focus, and one year, something else will be the focus. So just because reading isn't the focus that year doesn't mean that it's not important, doesn't mean that your job isn't valuable, because it is. Districts and principals and admin, they have their own goals too, but reading is always going to be super important no matter where you go.
Well said. Across the board. And it doesn't even matter what grade level. Reading is always going to be essential. Yes, I totally agree.
Yeah.
Someone named Aaliyah says hello to you as well.
Oh,
And
hi. I work with her too. Oh, goodness.
oh, that's awesome. I love it. I love it. Teachers
That's
supporting
very
teachers.
sweet. Thank you so much for watching, friends. That's very, very sweet.
Well, that brings us to the end of our top tips. But there is a question two more questions I always like to ask
Sure.
my guests as they come in. That teaching is a mission field, and that we have to be the hands and feet of Jesus. How do you see yourself doing that each day?
Good question, Leslie. So there's a couple of ways. The first thing, when I go into work and I know that I'm working with people and students, I have to kind of see my job as, this is something that God has called me to do. And what does He want to do with me through this job? And sometimes I don't always have the answers. I don't always know, like, I know God wants me to do this. This is His purpose for my life. I know that He wants me to go this place and do this thing with this person. I really have to be grounded in what the Lord wants me to do and what He has asked me to do. I know that I am, for right now, made to be in education. I'm made to be in this job. And so when I think about that, I think, okay, how can God use me in this job? I know academically, yes, I'm helping kids. I know that that's really important. I know that.
Of course.
But
Mhm.
more than that, their character and the things to instill in children, that I want them to be able to encourage themselves, obviously to be kind to other people. And I won't say like, oh, this is something that the Lord wants you to do, or this is something that Jesus wants you to do. I don't say that, but I know that He is able to work through me to be able to show things to my students.
I love that. I love that. And that's so important to know that we don't have to wear the bumper sticker. We don't have to wear the shirt. I love what you were talking about with the character. It's so essential. Like, just to love on our kids and to build that character is just awesome. I love it. Love it. Love that response.
Yeah.
Now, as we know, we both spoke about it, the teacher shortage. Now, what is the encouragement, if you have any encouragement, for our fellow teachers who just want to give up? They've had enough. What is something that you would do to encourage them or say to encourage them?
So for teachers that feel like you just want to give up, first I'll say we have all been there. There have been times where I said, you know what, I don't know if this is for me. I don't know if I can do this anymore. So know that you're not alone. This is a very difficult, challenging job. It is. And the important thing to know is that you may not see the fruits of your labor right now. You might not see it today. You might not see it tomorrow. It might not be a month. It might be years from now. But what you're doing is so impactful and so important, because as teachers, we open the door for all the other careers. We teach
True.
people how to be doctors and how to be a lawyer. Those are things that we need to know how to do. So I know that it's a tough job, and I know that you may want to give up, but just know that the work that you're doing is so important and so appreciated, and it's powerful. And we need teachers, and we need people to teach our kids, because that's what we have, is the next generation. Without the next kids, we don't have anything. We need them. So we need teachers. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. So well said. We do. We need teachers, and we also teachers need to love on each other. We all are in this together. We need each other. So I love it. I love that. Thank you.
We do.
And guys, feel free to follow Miss T on TikTok at Ant Planner. For those of you who are listening by podcast, so you can't see this, but it's spelled ANTPLANNER. Okay, so on TikTok, Ant Planner, all lowercase, all one word.
And guys, thanks for sharing that, Leslie.
Of course. Now, guys, also feel free to share this with a friend. They can rewatch it as much as they want. You know, if you know friends who are struggling with their readers in their class, or struggling with students who need reading tips and they could benefit from these tips, share away. You can tell them they can rewatch it at lesliesaidwhat.com, which takes them right to the YouTube, and they can rewatch it. Or if they want to listen, they can listen on all podcast channels as of tomorrow morning. So definitely share, guys. It's only fair. Well, thank you so much, Miss T, for being here.
Oh, thanks so much for having me, Leslie. I really had a lot of fun.
I'm going to pull you backstage, so wait there for me while I say goodbye to everybody.
Okay, thanks.
All right, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed that. Oh my gosh, Miss T was such a wealth of knowledge, even more so than I even imagined. So that was just a special treat for all of us teachers. So definitely share these top tips with some of your teacher friends. And like I said, feel free to share the website so they can rewatch it, or via podcast they could listen. All right, guys, as always, thank you so much for being here. Leslie Said What, season 4, episode 11 is out.